So my name is Bryan Quinlan here, and I'm going to start reflecting on chapter 13, which was the work chapter. So one of the things I was really taking interest in was, again, just reading through this, particularly after the chapter on sex and adolescence. I was thinking about how much everyone always blames school. We talk about the failing of school systems, and again, this chapter is just another demonstration that I don't feel schools are failing kids. Um, in the sex chapter, it was talking that 41 Americans for every 1,000 have a kid in adolescence versus like 3.8 in Norway. And then in this work chapter, it was on page 342. It's talking about how much more kids in America work more than kids in Europe and other industrialized countries. And again, it's just a demonstration of, even though our numbers aren't where people want them regarding test scores on a world level, there's so many more things at hand. It was also fun to think about my jobs and such growing up. I worked like 3 jobs through college, and either up to like 5 in high school. I mean, a lot of them were just menial things, which seems congruent with what teens in America do. On page 342. I was thinking at first too, before I got into those part-time jobs, what I wanted to do for a career, which on page 329 they talk about fantasy. At this point, I guess I just wasn't really interested in a job. So I guess my fantasy up until the age of 11 was just not having a job. But then with time on tentative interests, that really did fit me, because from the 11 to 14, I really got interested in owning a restaurant. I liked social scenes. I liked going out to dinner with my family a lot. And so it makes sense then that I followed through with that and wanting a career in that up until I was 14, and then until I started moving into a realistic stage, which was teaching, which was always something I wanted in the back of my mind, and now thank God I chose it. I think it really demonstrates too that, like on page 331, when it talks about choosing an environment based on your personality type, I'm very social, so it makes a lot of sense that I chose such a social environment. This really goes along with occupational environment theory. And as far as other things I was thinking about in the chapter, I was thinking about take your kid to work day and how neat that is. I really think it's a cool idea. I remember going to work with my dad. It was one of the only big days I spent with my dad growing up. It was important to do that. I think that it's interesting now. A lot of times, take your kid to work day becomes like a carnival or a fair, some sort of team building environment for the company, which is unfortunate. I think really what they should be is modeling good work, and talks about the idea of having a role model in a teen's life for jobs, and I think that's really important, and that's really where we should be focusing more on take your kid to work day, instead of just having it be something about the company and like teamwork and camaraderie. And that really then plays into page 339 when they talk about the SES. The lower the SES, the less likely they are to have students are to have a broad background on jobs. I find that so much with my students. It's very frustrating for me. It's very sad for me, because they just don't know jobs. I get kids, real manipulative kids in the best of ways. And I'll say, oh yeah, you should be a salesman. And they're like, nah, because they think I'm talking about like hustling or doing something ridiculous. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about like real sales. This is a job. This is where you could make money. You'd be very good at it. And I think it's sad when they don't even have ideas like that. Something like sales, which I think is so basic of a job. I'm not talking about a technical position here. But unfortunately, if it's not CSI, which isn't even a real job, in the way that the kids think of it, they've never heard of it. It's frustrating for me. But it goes back to what we were originally talking about in the first part of this, the idea of realistic and keeping kids on a realistic time frame. And hopefully we can do keeping kids on more realistic if they're using parents as role models, and we can get more than just parents involved in those role models on Take Your Kids to Work Day, so that we can broaden the experience of low SES students. Thanks for watching. My name is Bryan.